So, the overview, because trust me guys, you cannot escape a mind you never learn to operate. So in this video, overview is about why most people never understand their own mind, followed by what a mind actually is. Because think about it by yourself. If you would have to describe what a mind is, how would you do it? The two invisible forces that stop progress. And trust me, I learned that the hard way. The barrier loop, the filter system, the response pattern, this is important for you, trust me. And obviously, the identity trap, literally the one that cost me millions, trust me. Plus the one process that fixes everything, lived by me. As an example, pattern library, daily practice, inversion, and of course the review together with the action summary. So, let's dive in straight. Why people never understand their mind. Most people think they understand themselves, but they actually don't. And they lie to themselves. They pretend they do. But it cost me less than 2 questions, and someone is already saying like, I don't know. Including me, years ago. They understand their personality. They understand their story. They, to a certain extent, understand their strength and weakness. But they don't understand the system that produces their thoughts, emotions, reactions, and decisions. And think about it. It's kind of being a co-pilot in your own body. It's being like an observer of your mind while it takes action on your behalf. Most of the time, not really in your favor. And the problem is, this creates the illusion of self-awareness, while the internal pattern continues to run automatically, kind of an autopilot. And today is about to fix that, because whenever you need to change, it goes in 3 phases: awareness, clarity, action. My job today is to give you all the awareness you need to understand the system, to become clear what that means in your life, and then to take action on that, because this is what you need to do, okay? So let me walk you through. The result right now, take your life. Chances are high that success feels super random, and most of the time, even a breakthrough feels accidental. And we want to change that. So let's begin with the first thing. What is a mind? Really quickly, if you want to get this document, text me mind on Instagram, and all the links are in the description too. What is actually the mind? And here is the most important learning for today. Your mind is not you. Let me say that again. Your mind is not you. Your mind is a processing machine, okay? It takes input, applies filters, and uses stored loops and produce reactions based on your past. So you are the sum of your experiences, because this is what your mind did. Your mind took everything that it learned over time and tries to apply it to every given moment in the future. So it has 3 simple jobs. First of all, protecting you. Second of all, predicting outcomes. Third of all, safe effort. Literally the survival mechanism, right? Staying comfortable. That's all. But because most people never learned how the machine works, they assume the output is the truth, including me. This cost me years of my life. If the mind produces fear, people believe the situation is dangerous, which is most often not the case. If the mind produces confusion, they believe the task is unclear. Again, probably not the case. And even worse, if the mind produces resistance, they believe they should stop. How many dreams and ideas did you turn down in your life because you felt like this inner resistance on not to proceed on something? While in reality, these are programmed outputs, not accurate interpretations. So let's dive into it. if we see the mind as a system, and let me try to make that even clearer for you from this angle, okay? Your mind is first of all driven by all the input that you consumed over time. Mostly by voice, images, text. Now think about it. A lot of the stuff that we believe is true is what we learned in our past, maybe taught by our parents, maybe taught in school. But there's another layer. Everything that we consume during the day, videos, reels, movies, your mind can't differentiate if something is true or not. So what it does is it feeds everything to your internal storage, which is, to a certain extent, also the hyper engine that in the future is using this data to make assumptions about an event that's going to happen in the future to either protect you, predict an outcome, or save effort. So what you feed into the system becomes a filter later for your output. And the easiest way to check if you are maybe affected by it or not is the following. We all know the word success, don't we? A successful person, it's not even worth describing because we know what it means by default, right? Cool. I ask you, what does success mean to you? Say it out loud now in one sentence. Chances are high you can't do that. At least I couldn't do that years ago. When I was asked the same question from a guy who told me the principle of if you can't describe what something means to you, you probably never can experience it by yourself from an intrinsic standpoint. So the world needs to tell you if you are successful or not. But how can we solve this problem? It all comes down to understand the two invisible forces that hold us back, okay? It's either patterns created in the past, I just talked about that, maybe your parents, childhood, school, bad experiences you made, you name it, or filters that decide what reality means, created by you too. So let's take force one. Your mind builds shortcuts from repeated experiences. That's how your mind works. If something worked once, it repeats it forever. Again, if something worked once, it repeats it forever, in good and bad way. Because if something felt painful, your mind avoids situations like this forever. So let's assume your first success is somehow related to pain, frustration, whatever. If your success is not bigger compared to the feeling you had in between your journey to get there, chances are high that you forever don't want to repeat this journey of success again. But it's also the other way around. Maybe take your first experience with love. Maybe take your first experience with a friend who betrayed you. We remember too well on the bad situations in our life compared to the good moments, right? Because these shortcuts become unconscious rules. And you follow them without even noticing them, which is okay. To be honest, I am the same. I lived through that. That's why I created this document. I was a full-time idiot handling this operating machine. And for too long, I assumed that I was the problem and I was the reason that everything was not going the way I expected it to be. And there's the second force. Let me rephrase that. Filters that decide what reality means, okay? So your mind does not see reality. It sees a filtered version of reality. Filters decide what you pay attention to and what you ignore. Filters decide what you believe is possible or impossible. It all comes down to what you think is true or not, because you teach your mind on it. You're trained it. actively or passively, it doesn't matter, like subconsciously, you fed data to your system. And at the end of the day, filters decide what feels like a threat or an opportunity. What is a threat to one person could be an opportunity to the other one. And these two forces shape 90% of your life outcome without your permission. And I try to make that clear by pointing that out. Let me show this to you. There are past filters and reality filters. And I want you to challenge your current beliefs to be aware of your internal rules and internal filters. Because if you don't do that, you will be trapped inside of that forever. And you will be your own obstacle in the process of growing. And that's what straight leads us to the barrier loop. Every time you try to grow, you hit the same pattern, don't you? You desire change, you take a step, your mind feels discomfort. Discomfort triggers a protective pattern, and all of a sudden, you stop. You delay, or you change direction. And, of course, you blame circumstances. So did I, and the loop repeats, right? It's a too well-known pattern. And watch that. Take a desire, could be weight loss, could be a financial win, could be achieving maybe status in whatever area of your life. And once you feel out of control, it goes back to the old pattern and you run away. And if you don't make that obvious in your life, you will be forever trapped inside of that. Because I tell you why it happens. Your mind associates progress with danger. Isn't this crazy? And remember what we just said. It has just one job: avoid danger. So you making progress is somehow, somewhat interpreted by your mind as danger. So what happens? It creates barriers not to stop your success, but to stop discomfort. And this is why people feel stuck. That's literally the reason. Not because of a lack of ability, but because their mind thinks it's protecting them. And once you realize that, you can go into change, okay? And to do that, it's all about the internal filters. Your mind has 3 filters that decide how you interpret everything: the safety filter, the identity filter, and the prediction filter. Let's start with the first one. The safety filter interprets anything new as a potential threat. Possibly this could be a threat, which is good because that made us survive in the first place. But times, like the time changed. Right now, the potential or the amount of threats in our worlds are not that high compared to hundreds of years ago. So even opportunities or even somehow success is becoming kind of getting the label of a threat, even discipline, because at the end it's associated to discomfort. Followed by the identity filter, which makes it even worse, because the identity filter interprets everything through the story of, I am the kind of person who X, Y, Z. This filter keeps your self-image stable, even if that stability costs you growth. This is why so many people living in a fake reality. They don't want to see the lie behind the truth or the truth behind the lie. And together, this has a huge impact on the prediction filter, because the prediction filter uses your past to predict your future, obviously. And if you failed before, it predicts failure again. If you avoided difficulty before, it predicts avoidance again. Unfortunately, or let's say lucky enough, I can prove you wrong that doing something even though you failed in first place is a good thing. Think back to the moment when you start to learn walking. The first time on your feet, when you made your first step, do you remember? Probably not. And you know why? Because at that time, you didn't remember about failure, or you didn't save it that much because you were just learning and growing. Your mind was not categorizing everything in a way of failure, not a failure. it was just experiencing life. Therefore, you had an easy time to learn walking, because I assume every one of you watching are hopefully able to walk, right? So it's not a question. We learned it. Like, it's default for human beings to be able to walk, best case. But somewhere along the way, your mind starts to take over and thinks, no, I know better. I start labeling stuff now as potential threats. Maybe I protect you just by predicting an outcome based on your identity to save you. So at the end, this leads straight to overplan, to, I would even call it analysis paralysis. Because you feel like you're able to make a good decision based on your gut feeling, but you're actually not, because you got betrayed by your co-driver, the mind. But not longer. Right now, we're going to expose it, because I'm here to debunk and expose your mind. Because the good thing is, once you understand how the mind works, you can make it your companion. And then you are so strong, because you're not only, you will never be frustrated, because you understand yourself and you start being strong in the way you experience life instead of questioning yourself day in, day out. And this is all about the response to life, or the response pattern that's responsible for it, because your life outcome is shaped far more by your reactions than your intentions. Okay? There are 3 typical responses that keep people stuck, and I can testify that by, I think, working with over 500 people in my life across all industries, founders, clients, whatever it is. Here are the top 3 reasons why people stuck. Number 1, delay. Waiting for certainty, waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence. And delay is the mind buying time to avoid discomfort. Nothing else. The mind is smart, very smart, tricking you into discomfort. No, sorry, tricking you in delay to avoid discomfort. But what actually happens is you gain short-term confidence and comfort on the cost of long-term comfort. Because if you avoid doing something today, it's causing discomfort in your future most of the time. Next one, overwhelm. Taking on too much information at once, overthinking, overplanning. And let me tell you one thing, overwhelm is the mind trying to freeze action. Isn't the mind a genius thing? I love the mind, because once you understand how to use it, life becomes predictable. And you can use your internal system in a way different life. And number 3 is collapse. Feeling resistance and stopping. Calling it intuition, calling it misalignment. Collapse is the mind choosing comfort. Full stop, period. And these are not personality problems, which you might think. No, they are trained response patterns. Okay? So whatever triggers an action inside of yourself maybe ends up either in delay, overwhelm, or collapse. So right now, probably, maybe you want to make money, maybe you want to start a business, maybe you want to quit a relationship that you stay in but you're unhappy. Maybe you want to quit your job. Maybe you want to do the one thing that you know right now, if you think about the last time when you were frustrated, the one thing, tell me why you didn't do it. Probably because of a delay or you felt overwhelmed. Isn't it true? Our mind is keeping us trapped and locked inside of that fake feeling of safety. At the end, it's just illusion. And the reason why you can't see that for yourself is because you are in the identity trap. People suffer because they believe their mind is their identity. I was 100% the biggest idiot on the surface of the earth, because for too long I thought I am my mind. I am literally the reason that everything in my life is the way it is. And to a certain extent, it's true. Because if you don't spend time to understand your mind, I mean, listen, people spend more time to understand how their phone works instead of just focusing on the fact how their mind works. Isn't this insane? So let's take some examples. I am someone who procrastinates. I'm someone who struggles with discipline. I'm someone who loses focus easily. I'm someone who overthinks. Merry Christmas, brother, probably, or sister, probably you are right, because whatever you think is right is becoming true. These statements feel true, but are simply the language of a mind trying to explain its pattern. That's it. That's it. Let me say that one more time. These statements feel true, but are simply the language of a mind trying to explain its patterns. And then identity becomes the prison. The moment you switch from I am this to my mind produces this pattern, you gain power. It's kind of the cheat code. I don't know if you ever played Super Mario, and when you hit this block and this little star appears and you jump into the star and everything like yeah, welcome. This is your star right now. You can now run through life like Super Mario. Because at the end of the day, patterns can be changed. And I show you this in this very graphic here. The trap, the truth. I am someone who procrastinates. No, my mind runs a delay pattern. I am someone who loses focus. No, my mind runs distraction patterns. So therefore, whatever happens in your internal system can be explained with the core functionality of your mind. Because the one process that fixes everything goes straight into that core problem. This entire topic can be reduced to one simple cycle. And now listen closely, okay? Your mind runs on a program. And I think it was Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, who said, if you can step into the room between trigger and your reaction, you are free. So what do I mean by that? Right now, probably if something happens, you immediately react to it. Trigger, reaction. You never step into the room that allows you to create a new version of reality because you pause for a moment to rewrite your life. Because this is how you turn invisible mental automation into conscious control. It's about pattern recognition, pause, rewrite. And think about what I said in the beginning. Awareness, clarity, action. How many times did something happen, and before you even know what it means to you, you reacted? And if you do that, you are a forever co-pilot in your life. I got you, right? So, how can we fix that? I love the document because it literally describes my life so well. See what your mind is doing. Every time you feel resistance, or frustration, or fear, or mental fog, I don't care how you label it, identify the pattern. Identify the pattern your mind is running. Because avoidance, safety, identity, perfection, overthinking, prediction, it's just labels run by a pattern. If you can name it, you can change it. But if you don't do it, no chance, brother or sister. Number 2, pause. Disconnect automatic obedience. Isn't this a sexy saying? Disconnect automatic obedience. The pause interrupts the loop. And it's hard. It requires willpower. But trust me, the older you get, the more difficult it is. So you stop the automatic reaction, not forever, just long enough to see the truth. Face the truth, because the mind is not obvious to itself. The pause creates space between your mind and your action. your feeling and your decision, and your pattern and your identity. Oh my God, I love that so much, because when the pause is present, you are no longer controlled. And this in itself already feels like a healing process in itself. Followed by rewrite. Rewrite in the sense of replace the old code with a functional rule. It's okay that the mind works the way it does, but we want to apply some kind of rule set to it. So rewrite does not mean motivational hype. Rewrite is a simple instruction that overrides the default pattern that we are all exposed to, literally. So, examples. When resistance appears, I take one step forward. That's fine. When something feels unclear, I simplify to one action and one action only. When fear appears, I check if it's a real threat or a predicted one, right? And when my identity defends, I ask if the pattern is outdated. So rewrite by default leads to new outcomes because it gives your mind a new rule. And I tell you, run the instruction often, repetition builds the new pattern, and this is, at the end of the day, how you fix the mind. Pattern, pause, rewrite. Okay? And to make you understand what kind of patterns exist, I just want to make it very obvious, because I don't want no one of you struggling after that video to don't be able to be specific about a pattern. So, this helps you to identify in a very fast way what pattern is running. Avoidance. Triggered when a task feels overwhelming. We all know that. The problem, the task, the project, too big, too much. So the response is escape. Reduce it to one single action, step by step by step. I think someone said it in the video that I saw the other day. He said, if life is super overwhelming right now, start by making your bed, because you gain control by tiny actions. Identity defense. Triggered when a task challenged self-image. Woo-hoo-hoo! Holy moly. This was literally my worst enemy, because I found all the excuses in the world to not face myself, because I was waiting for too long to update my identity. And I literally but I gave myself a hard time, and I lost millions because it took me too long to figure that out. I also made millions, but I lost a good amount of millions too, because my identity was trying so hard to pretend that that's not true, that it was the most life-changing moment ever when I faced myself. The next one is fear, followed by perfection and comfort. So here's what you can do. Your daily practice. And I want you to do that because I made the video for that. So if I could watch the video years ago, probably I would follow the advice and not run into all the problems to experience it by myself. Because trust me, you either learn it the hard way or the hardest way. So I promise you, better choose the hard way, because you don't want to have the hardest way. Because if you have to learn it the hardest way, you're going to end up on YouTube making a video about that with a document and helping people to don't do it the way you did it so that they can learn it the hard way. Okay, so you do well if you made it so far in the video. And I want you, the morning check, what pattern is most likely to show up today? Take your schedule, take your appointments, who you're going to talk to. We know, based on our gut feeling, how we are probably going to feel during the day, right? So name it before it happens. Name it before it appears. Make a midday pause and ask yourself, did I obey a pattern or rewrite it? Honest reflection builds power, always. And then the evening simplification. What is one pattern I want to rewrite this week? Because if you identified it, it makes it easy to conquer it during the week. Make the mind predictable, takes the power away. Make the progress predictable, even more powerful for you to feel in control about your life. So, to stay stuck forever, because maybe you don't want to change, do the following thing. Treat every thought as a truth. 100%. Chances are super high you will be stuck forever. Or even better, treat every reaction as intuition. And never question your internal filters. Don't do it. Don't do it, if you want to stay stuck forever and blame the world instead of processing. Blame everyone. Everyone except yourself. And call your patterns your personality. Merry Christmas. Protect your identity at all costs and avoid discomfort. And wait for motivation and permission. This is the blueprint for a wasted life. And it shows you that this inversion is the absolute absurdity. It's insane to even think about a life like that, because if the opposite keeps you stuck, then the solution becomes obvious. So I want you to understand that the mind is a processor, not an identity. Filters shape reality, and you created the filters in the first place. Patterns shape your behavior, reactions shape your results. Okay? And you can rewrite any pattern. The system is simple. Pause. No. Pattern. Pause. Rewrite. Okay? I'm so excited. And once you understand the machine, you can control it. Once you control it, nothing feels random anymore. Do you know how much time and energy you waste purely because stuff is random in your life? And this entire transformation is not emotional. It's a mechanical. Or it is mechanical, predictable, and trainable, and repeatable. So, here's your homework. And if you made it that far, I'm very proud of you. The one thing that I want you to do is catch one pattern today and rewrite it. Just catch yourself and your mind while operating this pattern. And from there, do an audit once per week to see, is there anything else going on that I maybe was aware of, and how do I want to change that? And update one thing at a time so that you'll learn that you're in control. Because consistency wins. Because the mind learns through repetition. If you made it that far, thank you. Everything I said is caused by years over years. I was struggling with that, and I gave myself a very, very hard time. And I don't want you to feel the same. And this is why I created this video. Take care.